friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me wrapping up the books that I read in the month of October. But I read a total of 5 books this month, or last month, which is not the complete amount of books that I wanted to read. One of those books was also not on my TBR initially, so we're going to have to rearrange the TBR, and hopefully I manage to hit all, 9 prompts. I hope. Pretty sure I do. But we'll just kind of get into it. So the first prompt that the first book that I ended up completing a prompt for was for the prompt of Halloween, and that is read a book that gives autumnal vibes. And I ended up choosing The Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This is a YA, I guess paranormal fantasy following young Rose, who is this kind of weird human but not human mix, where they're kind of born and set to guard the vampire royalty, which is the Moroi. Her best friend Lissa and her have been on the run for the past 2 years now, I believe, and now have been captured and returned back to the academy, where they're both not super happy about it because there are some weird things going on within the academy that kind of doesn't make them want to return. I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. This is part of a new series on my channel where I read through the Vampire Academy books, because I've been told they're really good, and it's finally time for me to bite the bullet, so to speak. Gave it a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. There were a lot. I did do a vlog of all these books that I'm reading, so I will leave the playlist of my vlogs down below. But I really enjoyed this. As I said in the vlog, I did have some instances where I had to remind myself that that Rose was a 16-year-old girl who kind of had the world on her shoulders, so she would have times just gonna act immaturely, not think properly, which was completely a-okay. I ended up really enjoying this book, and I thought that it was a fun read, super easy to blast through and just have a good time with. I didn't have any major qualms with it. It was just such a good book. So really well written, the plot was nice, and I like that you can already see Rose's maturity start to develop as she goes through the series, or at least his initial book. And I'll be reading the second book this month. I'm actually starting the vlog this week. So if you guys want to continue on with my journey of reading the Vampire Academy series, just subscribe to my channel. I'm going to upload a video every single month, so for the next 7-ish months, I want to say, I'll be reading a book from the series. So there's that. The next book fulfilled the prompt for Friday the 13th, and that is read a book with a number in the title, and I decided to do Through Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake. If you have been following me on this channel for a while, I've had this book since probably the inception of my channel. This is the 3rd time I'm rereading this book. This is the first book in, I think, a quartet or a series. I forget if it's if there's 4 or 5 books in the series, but it's the first book, and it's a YA high fantasy following these triplet sisters who are born each with individual powers. And now that they're coming of age of 16, they are now set to have to kill each other in order to take the throne. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. While I did enjoy it, I did have issues with the characters. Some of them I couldn't really connect with, I had issues with, and some of the world building. There were definitely a lot of instances where they mentioned certain aspects of the world building that I was but how does this come about? What's the point in mentioning this now toward the end of the book? What's the point? How is this gonna come full circle toward the end of this series? I still don't know if I want to continue on with the series, so I'll be reading the second book probably in December or something to see if I want to continue on with the books. And if not, then we donate. If we do, I probably can't find the hardcovers anymore, so I don't know. I'll decide from there if I want to just borrow everything from Libby and still donate, or if I want to try to hunt down the hardcovers so they all match. But I really did enjoy it. It was slow to start, as most high fantasies are, but I think the compelling 3 sisters really kind of have you push forward on the series itself, and I don't know, something about it just really hit really nicely for when I was reading it. I did just struggle with the fact that there was just so much world building, and I was just what is the point in mentioning this in the first book if it probably won't come to fruition in any of the books at all? At least from my judgment, I don't think it'll ever come to fruition, but yeah. So the next one fulfills the next 2 prompts, and that is Slender Party Massacre, which is read a book as a buddy read or in a live show, and then Scream, and that is read a book that'll keep you guessing. And I ended up choosing Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is her only thriller novel. It's an adult thriller following a young author, Lowen, who is asked to ghostwrite and finish out the series with this author named Verity. Verity was in a terrible car accident and ended up being unable. She's paralyzed and really is unable to really do anything anymore. She's according to what they mentioned in the book, she doesn't have any of the motor skills anymore. She's not there mentally either. So Lowen comes in to look at all the notes and live with the family for the next 2 weeks. And as she is looking through the notes, she stumbles upon Verity's like unpublished manuscript of an autobiography of her life, and finds that there are some kind of sinister things going on that puts into question Verity as a person, Verity as a mother, Verity as a lover, and a wife. So Lowen is now placed with the question of whether or not she should show Verity's husband, who loves Verity and wouldn't do anything at all, like loved her so much and was devastated by the accident that happened with Verity. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It's a very like entertaining novel. I definitely was at the edge of my seat. It definitely had a lot of twists and turns, and I was wondering exactly what was going to happen next. But the biggest thing that got to me and made things difficult for me to really give it the full 5 was that there was a plot twist toward the end that kind of ruined it for me. I will leave my my spoiler-filled review of this novel linked down below for y'all, so you guys have that to you. But trigger warning, this book has a lot. Like the review that I have linked will have the full set of trigger warnings. But there's just a lot of trigger warnings, so I recommend you all be very careful treading into this book, because there are definitely instances where I was like, what in the fuck? But I do think that if you are trying to get into thrillers as a beginner, probably the best book for you to pick up. It's not as in-depth as most thrillers can be sometimes, and you don't have to do a lot of thinking with it. I feel like the plot twists like made sense with the overall thing. We didn't have to do a lot of like puzzle setting or puzzle solving kind of situation that most thrillers I feel tend to have. So I highly recommend it if that's the case. But again, Colleen Hoover, I've learned recently, is a little sus. There were things such as her covering up her son's potential essay for a young lady. So I don't know if that's like I said, this is probably the last Colleen Hoover book I'll ever read because of that. So leave that there. But like I said, good beginner. The next book that I have fulfills I'm out of breath. It's hot. It fulfills the prompt for I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is read a backlist book, and that is Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer, which is Twilight Reimagined, the 10th anniversary edition, and this is basically the gender-bent version of Twilight. Instead, we follow Beau, who falls in love with Edith, who is a vampire, and things ensue. I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, kind of the flow of things, and the ending for this book really like sold it for me, and I wish you would continue down this path instead of the path of rewriting the entirety of Twilight in Edward's perspective. I don't need it, Stephanie. I want to know what happens to Beau and Edith, because that plot twist was something else. But the biggest thing that kind of dinged me throughout this entire novel was that I feel like she didn't take into account a lot of like the gender aspects that would have happened while Beau, being a guy, was in Bella's position. Like, I felt like Beau didn't have the same kind of personality that Bella did, which is fine because they are technically two different people. The thing that got to me was that Beau still did a lot of things that Bella did that I'm sure Beau wouldn't have done being raised as a boy. Especially around like 2007, the mentality behind like relationships was vastly different than they are now. So the things that Beau would have done probably would have been different than what Bella would have done. And Beau, to me, just didn't have a lot of like personality. Even though like I prefer Bella as a protagonist over Beau, but I am really intrigued by Beau's storyline. So I would like to see how that goes, but I gave it a 3.75 out of 5. Definitely an enjoyable book. Definitely probably like now one of my favorite out of the Twilight books, just for that ending alone. And Stephanie, if you are watching this, but please, for the love of God, just continue on with this. I need more gender-bent stuff than Edward being a weird little creep. So, but yes, I highly recommend it if you haven't read it, and thank you, Connor, for buying this for Christmas for me. I highly appreciate the read, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to reread it again and see if I can glean more off of Beau. And also, the part of the 3.75 in the ding was that she just really horribly ruined Rosalie's like male name, I guess, like her male counterpart in the series, because she named him Royal, which I'm just like, okay. And finally, the last book that I read fulfills the prompt for My Bloody Valentine, which is really a book with a romance in it, and I ended up choosing, because I found this manga in the wee hours of the night in a weird delirious form. Like legit, I woke up at 3 a.m. No, woke up at 2 a.m. Could not fall asleep until 4 a.m. And then I was like scrolling through Twitter or TikTok, and I saw that there was a grab of the anime, and I was like, interesting. Found the manga, and that is TheBibliophile Princess, which is written by Yui and illustrated by Satsuki Shina. This is basically about a young woman who is like a lady who's well known. Her entire family like runs the library, and all she wants to do is read books and not have to socialize. She despises socializing, is not very good at it. And then one day she runs into the prince, who is trying to socialize without having to like have the weight of getting engaged over his head. So the two of them strike up a deal 4 years ago and pretend to be engaged, so that way she has the freedom to read all the fucking books she wants and not have to worry about like going to tea parties or anything. And he can run the kingdom, or start to learn how to run the kingdom, without worrying about finding someone to marry. And this is like 4 years later, after that thing where they realized that maybe they just have feelings for each other. Maybe they're just in love. I read the first volume in like 30 minutes. I'm in the middle of the second volume right now. It is such a sweet novel. I highly recommend it if you guys are just looking for a light and fluffy like romance. Very sweet. I want to collect the light novels here. It's just very cute, and I think it's just like a very sweet romance, and I relate because I too would much rather be reading than socializing. So I think the only one that I did not get to was Child's Play, and that was because I didn't read any middle grade novels, which is annoying because I had plans to read one and then I could just not find it anywhere. Or no, I had to move and then I forgot to get the book. Either way, I think 8 out of 9, not a bad job for a host. I'm sure most of my hosts have probably gotten the full 9, but it's fine. Next year we will do better. Oh wait, I missed one. Verity also counts for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is read a book set in the real life. But that is it for the books that I read in the month of October. If you guys were able to join us during Trick or Treat-a-thon, let me know in the comments down below what you guys read. If you guys enjoyed any of the books you read, if you guys want to read any of the books that I read last month, because I read them. Again, I will leave the playlist that I did for the reading vlogs down below so you guys can watch all of them and enjoy. I believe they are all pretty much like spoiler filled, so keep that in mind. But until next time, I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!